If there's any fictional place that screams cozy game vibes, it's the Shire. I mean, come on, hobbits were basically living the Stardew Valley dream long before we were planting pixel carrots on our switches. But even if you just read the introduction to The Lord of the Rings, Tolkien just straight up describes them as the ultimate chill farmers, for they love peace and quiet and good tilled earth. A well-ordered and farmed countryside was their favourite haunt. And the translation of this basically means these guys were the original farm-to-table hipsters. So on paper, the new life sim Tales of the Shire, it sounds like an instant win. Maybe. Like a Hobbit-sized home run it should be. But after wrapping up the main story this week, I guess I kind of feel like a took who's just been told there's nothing extra beyond the garden gate. Right, don't get me wrong, it is charming, but I did find myself wanting, I don't know, something, anything. My brain cells back, that was mean. I'm sorry. Pretty much every farming game ever. Tales of the Shire, just like them, it kicks off things off with the classic big city burnout, moves to the countryside, generic story, except this time it's got that Middle-earth, little bit of Middle-earth flavour. So you basically play as a hobbit who's ditched the hustle and bustle of Bree, which, let's be honest, is probably just one tavern and a guy yelling about pipeweed. But after crashing the iconic pony, this is where you kind of end up, right? So from there, your custom-made hobbit, they waddle into the peaceful little town of Bywater, ready to live their best cozy life. Forget slaying orcs or carrying cursed jewellery. It's all about just foraging for goodies, hosting dinner parties that would make the great British bake-off blush, and trading recipes with neighbours who probably know a dozen ways to cook taters. It doesn't throw out any epic quests, no dragon slaying. It's all about slowing down, taking a deep breath, and then living that slow and steady hobbit lifestyle. You're not saving Middle-earth, you're not battling Sauron. You're basically just living that perfect little pre-drama moment of the Lord of the Rings timeline, back when the scariest thing in the Shire was running out of ale before second breakfast. So if you're hoping to reenact the Battle of Bywater, or go full Bilbo on some unexpected adventure, sorry, this ain't it. But instead of a sword, you're strapping on, wow, strapping on a cooking apron, and you're knocking out fetch quests to help Bywater officially become a real village. Think less epic hero and more mayor of food deliveries. It is cosy. It's chilled. Honestly, it's kind of like Animal Crossing, but everyone's shorter and obsessed with potatoes. Tales of the Shire, it does tick all of the cozy genre boxes, like it's filling out a bingo card, and maybe I'm not the best person to review this game, but it's Tolkien and it's Lord of the Rings, so here I am. You're basically cooking, check, foraging, check, figuring out what the locals like, check, hint, it's always food. And then you're farming your way to like fancier tools and upgrades, like that kind of make chores feel a little less like chores. It's got that very slow, meditative vibe. And the game does try to keep things interesting by tossing in surprisingly deep cooking mechanics and plenty of goals to chase, plus a bunch of clubs to level up, because apparently even hobbits need their own version of like a fancy, what are those people that all gather at school, like parents that gather at primary schools and think that they are important? What are they called? Anyway, people like them. One thing I did really like was no gold coins. There's no running about like a broke Mario collecting shiny things. Instead, your path to success, it comes from making friends. And by making friends, I mean inviting hobbits over for dinner and feeding them exactly what they want. It's less kill the dragon to get the treasure and more bake the perfect pie so Bob from down the lane will let you borrow his fancy garden hoe. Honestly, it's kind of like Middle-earth meets The Sims, but with fewer house fires and way more potatoes. But there is something very Tolkien and honestly very kind of refreshing about a game that says forget the cash grind and anything that makes video games remotely fun. Just be a good neighbour and you'll do fine. There's no shady landlords shaking you down. What am I doing? Shaking you down for bells. No panic running around like you're on Extreme Makeover Hobbit House Edition. Instead, Tales of the Shire rewards you for doing the most Hobbit thing imaginable, throwing dinner parties and making sure everyone leaves stuffed. Right, if you cook up the right dish, you nail those flavour combos like Gordon Ramsay's much calmer cousin, and you'll earn some upgrades, fancier tools, seasonal recipes. It's cosy, it's a very low stress system. It does make you feel a little bit like Sam, just trying to make a proper Sunday roast rather than a cash-strapped farmhand in Pelican Town. But, okay, kind of like a downside. It's literally all about community. It can sometimes feel as quiet and empty as the Green Dragon on a Monday morning. Every resident has their own little backstory, which is quite cool, but chatting with them doesn't give you anything beyond a polite, like, wave. There's no, like, festival buzz. I guess. If you ever played Stardew Valley, that's from that, right? There's no like town gossip. Most of the time, you forget the other hobbits even exist until Orlo Proudfoot, the local postman and part-time guilt tripper, he sends you a note saying somebody's cranky because you haven't invited them over for pie in a while. And while there are seasons to play through, there's no like recurring festivals, at least none that I've seen after beating the main story and wandering around for a while. After a few hours Bywater, it can feel a bit stagnant. Like that one pub in town that still thinks it's 1998 because they never updated the jukebox, and no matter what time of day you go, it's always the same songs playing. The problem is, though, Tales of the Shire gameplay loop, it starts to feel like a treadmill if you're an exercising type. Slow, because who likes running fast? Nobody. Steady, not exciting once the novelty's worn off. I did have my quest book stacked with more to-dos than I aimed for. Bywater, it just didn't have enough life in it to keep me coming back, especially after I wrapped up the main quest in like 13 and a half hours or something. It's kind of like finishing Return of the King only to find out there's no epic last stand, just you alone making soup. And speaking of the story, right, getting Bywater officially recognised as a village was, well, easy. I was ready for an uphill battle, like I'd have to throw more dinner parties than like Jella Lawson at Christmas and whack out the pronunciation of micro wave and hunt down rare ingredients and grind through all those clubs I set up earlier, foraging, cooking, gardening, fishing, you name it. I did it all, but no, to finish the game, all I had to do was crank out a few fetch quests and then whip up a 3-star meal with high quality ingredients, and that was it. No big twist, no stressful challenge, no moment where I felt like Gandalf with his "you shall not pass" speech, just a gentle, easy stroll. Honestly, talking of strolls, you can just stroll right into the epilogue without even bothering to max out friendships or grind through the club levels. I literally barely upgraded my little Hobbit pad before I hit the final cutscene. After that, the game basically shrugged and was like, well, no. Well, you can just 100% everything now, if you feel like it. Sure, there are recipes I haven't unlocked, meals I haven't cooked, and clubs are still waiting for me to give a damn. But without the main goal dangling in front of me, there, like the One Ring, my motivation just tanked faster than a midlife crisis. Anyway, the story quest, it feels like it was kind of slapped together during second breakfast, barely there, definitely not pushing you to engage with the rest of the mechanics. And while take it at your own pace sounds nice in theory, the game, it doesn't give you enough reason to stick around. The map is small, cute, in like a very, I want to send this postcard to my gran because I'm going to Devon for a long weekend. But after a while, it's like just staring at the same, you know, when you're a kid and you first get the Smiths catalogue for Christmas, choose your Christmas presents, and eventually the Smiths catalogue gets boring because you just have to keep looking at the same page over and over again. It's kind of like that. And in some random annoyances like bugs when trying to host meals in the morning, a quest maker that's about as helpful as like a broken sat-nav, and no, who uses sat-navs? Christ. Just no option to end the day when you're ready. Like, you know, in Red Dead, you can choose the time of day and it's cool, but suddenly Bywater, it goes from this peaceful Hobbit getaway to just feeling like an unpaid internship in Middle-earth. Just grind. Boring grind. It is, though. It's laid back, though, right? I just think it's probably not the style of gaming that I prefer, but sometimes to the point, it feels like the game's kind of fallen asleep with its feet up on the sofa on a Sunday afternoon after a large glass of red and a roast dinner. But for cosy game fans who kind of just want to potter about without a ticking clock and stamina bars or quests yelling at you like an overbearing gym coach, it's probably a win for you. I'm reviewing it because I like gaming content and I like Lord of the Rings and I like Tolkien. But as a Tolkien nerd, I do have to give it some credit where it's due. The world building details, the Easter eggs, they are fan service gold, so I will give it that. But from the moment I realised I could control how much hair grows on my Hobbit's feet, which is a detail that's both cool and disturbing at the same time, I knew these devs weren't just cashing in. They are Tolkien fans, right? It slips in fun lore. Like, it mentions the Fellwinter, it nods to the Dunedain patrols. There's even bits of the Hobbit family tree, all while letting you chat with Rosie Cotton. That Rosie Cotton, who I'm cosplaying in a couple of weeks, by the way. And you can chat, obviously, with Gandalf himself and those big, fabulous, weird camel eyelashes. But hosting a dinner party at the Green Dragon Inn is like nerd nirvana. The second I unlocked that place, it became my permanent party HQ, mainly because I just like the idea of drinking ale where Merry and Pippin once sang about second breakfast. I admit, I went into it worried it might be one of those slap the Lord of the Rings name on it and call it a day. But it's not perfect. It has all the urgency of a Hobbit deciding which cheese to consume next. It does show love for Tolkien's world, so for that I will give it some credit. Will I be rushing back to Bywater now I've completed it? No. I am glad I dropped in for a visit for a few hours. That I will admit. It's kind of like visiting an old friend who makes a killer stew, doesn't own a TV. You enjoy the time you spent, but eventually you do get really bored and you have to make an excuse like your dog needs to be let out. Tales of, even though mine's got a dog flap, Tales of the Shire. It's a video game equivalent of slipping on your comfiest sweatpants, cracking open a cold one and deciding that today's big accomplishment is definitely going to be making some vegetable soup. It's charming, it's laid back, and it's kind of packed with enough Tolkien references to make even the most antisocial of us mutter, oh, okay, that was kind of cool. But once you have polished off that main story, the charm, it does wear off faster than a VHS tape of the Fellowship of the Ring that's not an extended edition. Anyway, for cozy gamers, it probably is the perfect Sunday afternoon for you. There's no pressure, there's no ticking timers, there's just a whole lot of Hobbit hospitality and pie baking. But if, like me, you prefer a game with a lot more thrills, drama, and even a reason to just log in every day, you're probably going to feel like Frodo stuck at the Shire's most boring town meeting. Would I recommend it? Yes, but only if you're into like very slow burner games with zero intensity. Will I play it again? No. But I did have a good time hanging out in Bywater, drinking virtual ale at the Green Dragon and pretending Gandalf was giving me my life advice that I needed. And really, I guess isn't that just what being a gamer and over the age of 30 is all about? Maybe nostalgia, a couple of snacks, avoiding doing your actual chores. It's a mixed review, but it's an honest one. It's my opinion. Don't fall out with me. I'd love to hear yours if you've played it or you know somebody that's played it. Yeah, I'm only going to implore you one time to please do all those things you need to do to support my tiny channel, and I hope to see you in the next video.